afternoon, and welcome to the live stream. And sorry for the delay, folks. You have reached the live stream for David Lincoln channel, and I am with trader AndrosForm here. And welcome to you, Andros. Should I call you Andros?
You can call me whatever you want, dude. I mean, honestly, most people call me Dros.
Dros. Okay, cool.
Dros, yeah.
Well, this is exciting because it's kind of the first time I've done a live interview with somebody that I didn't know that well. And so let me just explain how I came across you. I came across you on StockTwits, which is a well-known stock trading forum. And I saw that I think you were trading NASDAQ and SPX futures there, as far as I could tell. And I saw you in heated debate
Yeah.
with some people. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And
Yeah. I mean, just a quick little side thing. I mean, heated debates on StockTwits to me, when I was earlier on in my StockTwits career, I really thought that I would take it personally. I was the kind of person who's like, oh, this guy said I'm wrong. Oh no. Whereas I was more so like, well, you can think what you'd like to. I mean, at the time when I first started out, I would always like kind of go off on them. I take it personally. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but your background is working pits. So actually making markets. I mean, things are different. I mean, that's like you boys being in the pits, but now someone's like at their computer, uh, like typing shit rather than in little hand signals. I don't even know them. To be frank, I'm not. All right, all right.
Well, like the first
But that,
place I was trading the SIBO was like we were really close next to each other, so we didn't use hand signals. But at the board of trade with the bond pit, it was definitely hand signals because you couldn't hear anybody. But there was certainly a lot of abuse cast back and forth in the pits, as much or as more so as in StockTwits, and you could actually get physical with people if you didn't
oh
like
yeah, you
them.
got to shove them out of the way to get an order back then, right? I mean, I was never a pit trader, so I mean, I'm speaking from like watching documentaries more or less. And like talking to some of the guys who were active back then. I mean, these days a pit is essentially a rack of servers, more or
Yeah, yeah,
less.
exactly. But yeah, it was. I'm not. You can tell I'm not a very big guy, and so I had to use my sharp wit
Really,
and whatnot, as opposed to my muscles to get stuff done, because I'm not going to be able to beat anybody up pretty much. But so when did you start on StockTwits? When did you first become active
uh,
there?
I would probably have to check. I think around 2014.
Okay.
Um, that's when I moved down out of the states to Barbados. And prior to that, I mean, I just had no use for it. I had no use for StockTwits. Um, and just with regards to I don't know. With regards to anything, really, like I never thought about it, that kind of thing. I mean, when I was trading, when I was running money, and even when I'm just running like money for myself after my like fun days, I I put it like I mean, I was used to making calls to like other desks, obviously. If I had something to unload, I mean, I would need to call them, which is nothing like the pit. It's more like I'm calling someone who'd probably turn to someone like you.
Well,
Uh,
talk about your fund and fund days. What does that mean? I'm not very familiar with your history. I
uh,
apologize.
no, yeah, that's absolutely fine. I ran essentially private equity, but not in a standard form. I did it such that more or less I was ghost trading. Um, so rather than like pooling my funds and pooling my clients' funds, I would have the Ameritrade has an app like a broker app that most people don't have in terms of like Thinkorswim. But essentially, in that, I could see all the accounts in a list, and I would talk to my clients. And beyond like standard fund managing. I wanted to know the kind of stuff they liked, so like it wasn't me making blind choices. Um, Sometimes I would put on trades across the accounts, but honestly, like, I mean, it was more so like unique because I had never heard of like, I mean, my fund structure was that if we had a down month, you didn't pay me anything. That was pretty fresh to me, and I thought it made sense. That's something I would want. So no fees on down months. Luckily, I had few. But yeah, I mean, that was essentially my fun background as like ghost trading
So,
across.
so how did you get started with that? I mean, were you always interested in the market when you were a kid? How did you get customers? That sort of thing. If you could just outline it for me just a little bit more as far as like the business. Yeah.
Of course, I mean, my parents taught me a great deal about like fiscal responsibility. Essentially, my like they both grew up poor in a third, what would be referred to as a third world country in South America. Um, I mean, it's not even worth making the comparison, but I guess you could say my dad was more of a country boy. He did a lot of farming as a kid. It's kind of all hands on deck. He had a very large family, 8 siblings.
Oh wow.
And my mom's side, I believe she has 7 siblings. So just a massive family. But they're both from a background that like the appreciation of having the money is such that you need to not be an idiot about it, frankly. So from a young age, it's, like they didn't teach me like technical analysis or like it was pretty much buy and hold, but it was like when you start, I mean, I was fortunate enough to get a computer at like the perfect time. I was like 6 going on 7 years old and I got access to my first computer. I mean, it had like a 28.8 28.8 goddamn kilobits per second modem.
Hmm.
My latency was horrible. But it was a computer, so I actually started generating revenue at a young age. Like when I was around 9, I made my first website for like a company that paid me to do it.
Oh wow.
And as I went along, I mean, kind of the entrepreneurial spirit has been a part of me for a long time. After that, I mean, I kept making more sites, and I got into making like protein bars, just a bunch of stuff. But the point being that I took the money that I made from those ventures, and rather than just be the typical kid who's going to either blow them away or even just put them away in savings, which it's not a bad idea. It's always good to have savings. Um, I mean, a lot of people get a little bit too invested in markets. I like to have cash on the side. But so yeah, my first trade technically, or my first investment, I was 14, entering high school,
Oh wow.
and suddenly I noticed around me that like everyone started wearing Under Armour. It's like the year before, everyone was wearing Nike apparel. Nike cleats, Nike like undershirts under all the padding and stuff. More or less Nike and like Adidas. I mean, Reebok was more of a soccer company. Um, but yeah, I saw the underarm prevalence, and I in the back of my head, I heard like my parents and one of their things was like trade what you know, more or less, like the Peter Lynch method.
Yeah.
Um, so I took some of the money I'd earned from my sites, and I bought my first trade was Under Armour, and pre-split non-split adjusted, it was 14 at the time, $14. So my first trade was profitable because I mean they split up in like the 90s.
Oh nice.
So that got me kind of into the groove of things. I was like, whoa, this money just became that money. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Nice.
Let's get this thinking too. Yeah, that's my history with that. And then as I worked through, finished college. During college is when I started getting into more of like the trader mentality, versus like just a like buy and hold kind of guy. I That's when I mean, it's college. You have a lot of time to not do anything. Any college kid who says he's busy, who's not working like other jobs, and is just busy with class, is lying to you.
Yeah, but I would
Yeah, but
speculate. I would speculate
I
not
would
all of
speculate
them
not
are
all of them are
trading stocks.
trading stocks.
Well, yeah, very few of them are actually. Yeah, and I never told my friends. This is a funny side note that like after I got into this industry, and I mean my major in college was nothing to do with finance, or everything to do with finance if you think about it. But I majored in like philosophy, the classical degree where people ask you why, what are you going to do with your degree?
No.
What are you going to do with a philosophy degree? Why don't you just do medicine? Which I was taking actually like the like pre med courses as I went along, well, alongside just in case, and it was a matter really of yeah. But my finance friends, and I mean Boston College, where I started my undergraduate degree. Um, the Lynch School of Management is or the Carroll School of Management. Sorry, um, but Boston College is where Peter Lynch came from.
Oh,
One
really? I
of
didn't know that.
one
Wow.
of one of my all-time favorite investors. I mean, his like Magellan fund was absurd returns for 30, 40 years. It's like I turned 30 this year. So for him to be putting up those numbers, I'm like, wow. And but I mean, he was charitable. There's a building there, but long story short, again, my friends at college, when they found out after college that like I was doing investing, and these guys all went off to like, like one of my friends was like Magna. Uh, he graduated like magna cum laude, um, from the business school with a finance degree. Now he works for like a pretty large prop firm in Chicago. They deal mostly with smaller, like PE private ventures, essentially. So to getting some private equity into newer startups. And I remember calling him because I wanted exposure one day just to one of his products, and he like laughed. He literally laughed because no one expected me to be like a finance guy. I mean, here's like the Phil major, And in college, I did an inhale, as some of our politicians might say, and so they're like, no way in fucking. And he literally laughed me off the phone because he's like, the min buy-in is X amount, and it was like a six-figure amount. I'm like, okay, I have client capital to cover more than that. What I did, and at the time I was younger in the game, but just to be an asshole about it, I called, or at first I pulled up the other people on at his firm because it was a small shop. And I found someone at his level. So at the time he was like a junior associate, something like that. And literally gave him the order to some stranger
Oh,
because
wow.
I was just like, back then I was so, it's the same thing I was saying about StockTwits. I was so like emotional about everything. It's like, why are you questioning me? Why are you like, especially if I'm going to someone to spend six figures of client money to get exposure to his fund, which is going to net him whatever his commission is, and he's going to laugh me off the phone. It's like, really?
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So you gave the order to one of his subordinates, huh? Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and he got the commission. Yeah.
So I know you mentioned to me while we were chatting ahead of time that you had some additional schooling besides BC.
Yes.
What
Yes.
did you end up pursuing after that? After
Well,
philosophy?
what happened was after my first year at BC, I was majoring in English at the time. I can write fairly well if you read the blog. And beyond, I mean, like writing was always my thing, but I just had no idea what I wanted to do. No idea what I wanted to do, like with my life. So after my freshman year, I took some time off. I hold on, people in my room are being funny. Hi, Jamie. Hi, Hill. AJ. Lucullus, etc. All right, sorry about that. All right, like one of them was saying that they just they saw their idol for the first time.
Ah,
It was like, yo, I do videos all the
cool.
time. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, I mean, so after Boston College and the freshman year, I mean, I was lost. I mean, here I am doing an English degree, and uh, it's like the same idea as the thing with Phil, with majoring in like philosophy, in terms of just in terms simply of like, what are you gonna do with that? What, are you just gonna be an English teacher? Maybe. Maybe I'll be the next, I don't know, Hunter S. Thompson. Maybe the next Hemingway.
Faulkner. Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
Hemingway, Faulkner. Exactly. Back then, there's some great authors, man. Um, but yeah, so after that year, I had no idea, so I left. I took some time off, and I took 2 years off actually, because I went home. I kept doing some entrepreneurial things. I started a independent record label.
Wow.
I was doing a lot of online projects at the time, and still sharpening my trading, um, keeping that axe grinding. And yeah, I mean, just with time, I mean, that's the thing about trading, and especially like I'm glad that I was involved in markets pre '08. Um, I feel as though a lot of new traders who didn't experience it, and you with your experience, you've experienced '08, 2000, 87, 92, is that right?
Well, I'm not that old for '87, but uh, I got there
Sorry.
at '94.
All
But
right.
I did see a lot of those ones,
Well, I mean,
and a lot of my friends did too.
once you've traded through a correction or a crash, for that matter, I think that it gives you an edge on traders who have not. I mean, people who started trading maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I mean, like around the QE introductions. I mean, QE started in '09 or late '08, so that would be about a decade ago. So unless you experience that, or also like as you've experienced with the 2000s, with QE and all of this Fed policy talk, the markets are not behaving the way they usually do. Things are different this time. Everyone's always like, "Oh, it's not different this time." It's nothing is different. Blah blah blah. But this is one time I do think it's different. I mean, one fun fact, and then we can get back to some questions because I know I kind of go off on
No,
these
please
little
go ahead. I mean, this is great.
monologues, those little monologues or diatribes, whatever you want to call it. People don't know this, but actually, the first quantitative easing policy dates back to BC in ancient Rome. A lot of people think that QE, the first time we tried that kind of thing, was in Japan in the '80s. Um, Most modern economists or finance majors and stuff, that's what they're learning in school. That like Japan was the big first QE, quantitative easing. For watchers who aren't familiar with what I'm talking about, that's essentially the government putting more money into the system so people can live their lives, and the government can continue on and carry on without too much money burn. But the first one was, I believe, around like 2000 BC, maybe closer, maybe 1000 BC. The emperor at the time, the ancient Roman emperor at the time, I forget which one, but he called in all the coins, all of like the Roman coinage at the time, brought it all in, melted it down, smelted it so that the money supply doubled, So he used the coins and pretty much split them in half so that it was the same like money going back out was essentially inflated because he made it out of nothing, and that's really the first QE. It works, but this time is different only because of the magnitude. I mean, what do you think about QE and the unwind right now? Do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I just feel like that we should try to. I think it's good that it's being unwound, and that we should try to try to get back to some sort of balancing of the budgets and that sort of thing. I think the more money we just keep to print. I mean, there's different theories on it, but I just think that it would be better if we weren't always printing money, for one thing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and that's part of the whole unwind and like tightening and rate hikes and etc. Because obviously, as the rate hikes increase, you're tightening money supply like by default.
I was in.
Um,
I was interviewing a guy a couple weeks ago, and he actually he's from Bulgaria, and there was hyperinflation back in the '70s that kind of wiped out his grandparents' savings, and so for him, the tightening is all about just holding back inflation, um, so that our savings is safe in a way.
that's no, absolutely. I mean, but then again, you also have to kind of counter that with, and I hate to even say it because a lot of people don't necessarily agree with it. They think that Wall Street should be persecuted and prosecuted for '08. And yes, things got out of hand, and they got out of hand quick. Guys were leveraging up insane amounts I would never even consider putting on in terms of like a risk reward or that amount of leverage even. Just because, I mean, I always talk about leverage like just like a swing. You put the fat kid on this side with his leverage, it's gonna tilt, but you never know when a fatter kid's gonna get on the other side and launch that kid fucking to the moon.
So, yeah, I wanted to ask you about your blog, and I have checked it out a little bit. What motivates you to actually like share all this information with like other people? Because I know you're obviously a successful smart trader, but you've chosen to involve all these other people and share with other people. What's your motivation behind that?
It's a hell of a question. And not one I've not heard before, so I could stick with the stock answer, but I'll just be frank and honest. When we were talking about StockTwits and me joining up kind of late-ish, but long enough. And I mean, right now I run a trading room, and it's like an educational place. What's up, Dros crew? Any fam out there? Hello. Um, um, and that really started because as I went along with StockTwits, and as I started to get a little more open with sharing trades, there are some trades I still take that I don't even share with my room, much less StockTwits, because there's certain risks I can take that I don't want other people taking. And when I found out that people were like ghosting my trades, I was like, oh, this no, I should stop posting these kind of things, But how it really started was all right. So I the StockTwits thing started going, and then going into the election, the whole Trump election, and then like I I know enough now about macro and micro factors even, and kind of the confluence between them, that I mean, that night, election night, that was a fun night to trade futures. I was up all night. Every single time you heard Trump lost the state, you could just short and wait, and then cover once Hillary won a state, and then short again when Trump won a state.
Oh
And
wow.
then when it was all done, if you hit that bottom, dude, literally in a day, I made like, I mean, the ES futures, So the S&P 500 futures, I don't even remember, dude, how many ticks. It was absurd because the market had literally gone like kind of choppy for a while, but that night it just whoosh. It was down maybe. I mean, the S&P was down what, like a solid amount. It was down like 150, I think, towards the lows of election night, which is pretty substantial for ES futures. So, but I mean, it was a fun trading night, and after that, I started making more trades based on what I saw coming. There was a Goldman Sachs trade that really shot me into people's interest. Like my follower rate of growth exponentially increased after this one. It was a 20,000% option trade uh, because they were super out of the money. So out of the money such that I like options flow that's bizarre. Um, that's one of my styles, actually. And if other people watching aren't sure, I'm more of an options guy in terms of informing me. It's not always trading the options. Sometimes it's seeing options flow and buying equity based on that flow. Because obviously, equity doesn't have any theta alongside. Um, so yeah, so as I kept going with the StockTwits thing, I kept getting like private messages and stuff from people about like, they want to learn something. So someone who became a good friend of mine, this guy named Rad, that's his nickname. Um, it just me and him had been back and forth so much on WhatsApp, really, or on StockTwits. So I was like, dude, it's kind of a pain to keep this conversation going in like DMs. Here's my number. If you have WhatsApp, message me if you want to. If you don't, we can keep going here. That's fine. And that's how my trading room started. Is WhatsApp with him, and then we got to about like 15 or 20 people. And Rad, who he works in IT for a pretty good sized fund, actually. He was like, with more people joining, we should probably be a little more concerned about our privacy. Because in WhatsApp, you can just look at people's numbers and whatnot.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, that makes
You
sense.
know,
Yeah.
so we moved to Discord. The room grew to a few hundred. I think it was around 400, 500 at the peak, and that's what got me into this whole thing. I mean, as a trader, and this is also something you and I talked about right before we went on. Staring at a chart all day is not effective. I think, at least. I mean, unless you're like literally doing a day trade that you have a lot of size on. Um, but even then, you should know your price levels so you don't have to watch the chart all day. I mean, if you're putting on a lot of risk, know what you're doing with your risk. Risk management isn't just like numbers or hedging, it's allocation. You're not going to go all in, or as the kids these days call it, YOLO trade. Oh my God. YOLO. Be like, no, no,
I know
no,
people
no,
seem to
no.
be proud of that sometimes for some reason. It's weird.
I mean, I think it's really a lot of like next gen trades. Yeah, Chris. I'm talking to my room now. Hold on. Yeah, Chris, risks I can take, like buying 10K shares of TLRY. Yeah. Yeah. But that's something I rarely do. I mean, that was an amazing trade. I did not expect the returns on that trade that I make at all. And but yeah, I mean, that's why I keep cash on the sides. But yeah, to go back to your question, that's really how I got into this whole educational aspect of it. It felt good to get like a lot of thanks. Just like when I get a message and people will message me, like, be it in my room or be it on StockTwits, like a DM, like, thank you. Just, and the first time I got one of those, I was like, hey, hey, hey now. It's like someone actually made money because I said to do something. And
Yeah,
that
that's
was a
really
good.
cool. Yeah, that's really
That
cool.
was a great feeling. And the more I've gotten into this stuff in the room, and the room, here, I'll show you guys my rooming too. They're all talking shit about me. Share my entire screen. Yeah, okay.
All right, so I can
Is
see
that
your Discord server there. Yeah.
yeah, this is actually Echofin.
Okay.
It's like it's kind of like Discord.
Okay.
So let's see. Hi Jamie, it's the first time I see my idol Dros. Hey, AJ, what's up? All right, so I mean, CG7, you're a bitch. Pal is a good man. M2 is a good man. No, CG7 is a good man. All right, so this is my room. Um, the, right now it's in beta. That's why there's these little locks here.
Okay.
These will eventually be locked off rooms. But I mean, I'm an options guy. Did who bathe today? Me? Yeah, I showered today, Hill. You asshole. Look at this shirt, dude. This is crisp, right? All right. So I mean, like options flow. All right. This is part of my room. I get the data from Trade Alert. I pay them the fee that I have to pay them. So I'll just look at this stuff coming in. Um, and typically I have a watch list that I build, and I build it based on some technical stuff. Like my all-time favorite um, book on trading is Stan Weinstein, Profiting in Bull and Bear Markets.
No, I'm not
Ugh.
familiar. I'm not familiar with that. I'm gonna have to write it down.
Yeah, no, he does. He's big on like stage analysis. And essentially with his stage analysis, and I have a way of like describing it myself. Um, and his way of describing it is that there's stage one, and that's essentially accumulation. It's like I I don't apply it to IPOs. I don't consider an IPO stage one because there's these days they're just ridiculous. Look at TLRY. It's the stock is like 2 months old. Jesus, you know. But I mean, like today they IPO'd Eventbrite, and I think that's a horrible investment, frankly. And I say that because anyone who knows anything about general tech will tell you that you can get that same the operationality or whatever that you get with Eventbrite from like a million pre-written scripts already. So but beyond IPO stuff, um, stage one essentially is basing. So like I tend to look at it after the first cycle of four, because it's a four-stage analysis. First stage accumulation, I call that just like big money going in essentially. Like institutional money is coming in, uh, hedge fund money is coming in, larger retail, whatever, and that kind of it's like a slow base. Then stage two, I call that the like give it to your friend stage. Like you've accumulated enough, and like in the first Wall Street movie. It, I mean, have you seen it?
Yeah.
I mean, most of us have, yeah. I don't know if you recall the one scene where Gordon Gekko, so Michael Douglas's character, turns to Buddy Fox, and they figure out that Anacott Steel is being acquired. And he turns to him. He's like, "All right, I want you to buy 1,500 January 150 calls. Then start bidding up in equity block 1,000 share blocks. And then when it hits 150, give it to your friends." And then he hangs up the phone. He turns to his own prop desk guys, and he's like, "Start buying
In the
Anacott
market.
Steel.
Yeah.
Must
Yeah.
keep it quiet." So I mean, obviously, but I mean that stuff happens every day still. I mean, you will see someone hot out the gate in the morning, and with there's even more tech now for people to look at these things. I mean, you can join my free room. You can go on Twitter. You can go on StockTwits, and see unusual activity in the options market that you couldn't as a retail trader see necessarily. You have to wait for like Pete Nigerian to tell you or something, and usually his alerts about 3 hours late. I mean, but it is what it is. So
Be,
yeah,
be, be nice. Be nice to those guys. Those guys are my buddies, Pete and Dr. J.
Dr. J. Actually, to be fair, and this is funny to me. I was watching. I think I was watching one of the shows. I think it was um, like one of like the halftime report, like something midday. And I see, and as I'm watching, because I was watching it on like one of my screens, and I see like they're in the midst of this heated debate about. I think it was Twitter at the time. I'm not positive, but they like there's a seat. They're all looking at the camera because they're seated around a little like U-shaped bench. Him, the female fund manager lady, and whoever else.
Josh Brown or whoever those other guys. Yeah, yeah.
Downtown Josh. I actually love his blog. I love his blog. He's very insightful. I mean, there's certain things he can't really say on TV necessarily because he's still an active manager. But he's not full time like Kramer, so he's not like required to only talk about Comcast or like have to disclose his Comcast NBC kind of ties. But his blog I like a lot.
Yeah,
And
he's
for
an
those of you,
interesting guy, definitely. Yeah.
yeah,
I
and
agree.
for those of you guys who don't know his blog, it's reformedbroker.com. It's good reading. It's good reading. I like his humility, and I like that he isn't someone who tries to fight the market. And I think that's one of the most critical things to like profitability, frankly. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, it's going to crash now. Oh, it's going to crash now. And my biggest drawdown, and this was still when I was trading personal money, thankfully, because I don't like losing people money. Like
Yeah.
that's another reason why I walked away from that arena was that I would be up 5 days in a row. Like just it's Thursday, my eyes are already kind of all sleepy, and this is with like my money. So if I've got someone else's money that they work for, they earn, and they trust me with, I would get maybe I don't even know Elon Musk levels of sleep if you're gonna go with with all of those news rumors. So for myself now that I'm doing it myself, it's all right. It's like I can lose, I can take a little hit here or there. I mean, once I'm net positive. All right, so let's get back to the screen share for a second, and I'll show
Okay.
you like a little bit. Actually, one second. Let me put on privacy mode on my Thinkorswim.
Okay.
That's one of my things. So
Yeah, I
with you,
try
I
to
mean, what
quit.
do you?
I try to quickly. Sometimes I forget to put privacy mode on, but I usually like it's off the edge of the screen somewhere. Hopefully, yeah. No, for Dr. J, we used to have to do these marketing things at the SIBO, and the marketing guy for my pit was some rich guy who didn't want to do it, so he would force me to go do the marketing things for him. And it was all these old guys with gray hair, except for Pete Nigerian. So he was like the only cool guy that I could chill out with at those things. So I ended up
Yeah, yeah.
stuck. He and I ended up stuck in a room with these gray-haired
Right?
guys all the time.
I mean, he's like a big dude too, isn't he? I mean,
Yeah,
based on what I've seen on TV and like his football background, I mean, probably a pretty sizable guy just physically.
yeah, they look like pro wrestlers or something. The two of them, but they're super nice
One
and.
of, well, but, like one of them went pro, didn't they? One of them played in the NFL, correct?
They both did. I
They
think
both
Dr.
played.
J was only there for a couple months, but his brother was more accomplished than him and was pro. I think for 4 or 5 years. Yeah, so pretty
Well,
cool.
I mean, and I mean it. Honestly, like I don't know what their returns are like with their fund, but I gained a lot of respect for them when they went through with the deal to sell like Mercury or the way they executed that deal was like, all right, these guys aren't just jackasses on TV. Like that was a astounding deal that they were able to work out with Mercury. I mean, like you I would assume know about what I'm talking about.
I mean, I know that I knew them from their Mercury days, and I can't remember the
Oh,
exact deal
all
that they
right.
sold it for.
Well, I mean, A, they turned the company around, and then B, they got a pretty nice offer. I forget the size, to be honest with you. But they got a solid offer. They got a solid offer. But there's that. But to finish just what I was saying about him, so I see them. They're talking about Twitter or whatever, and I'm just kind of just like fucking around with these guys. So I took a screenshot, and what it is like everyone else in like the little semicircle they're sitting in is like looking at the camera, and you see like Nigerian like with his eyes towards the screen. So I
Right.
thought I would have some fun. So I posted it to StockTwits and tagged him on it because like I have my ST like set up to go straight to my Twitter.
Okay.
So I tagged him there, and he responded. But the thing is, what I said was, busted Nigerian, jerking it during work. I said he was watching porn in my
Right. Right.
comment because the one screen grab I got was like, it looked like that's what he was doing. He was like, and he responded. He was like, "No, I trade during the shows," and I was like, "That's almost of a worse thing to tell me. You're on national TV giving stock advice, and you tell me that I would have been better off if he had been jerking, frankly."
Yeah, that's funny.
I
Yeah.
mean, to say that you're informing the American public while you're trading for yourself, I don't know. I mean, his reach might be a little bit more than mine or yours.
A little bit,
I,
slightly.
I mean,
I
the
don't know
envy's
about
confused.
yours, but definitely bigger than mine.
Oh, absolutely bigger than mine. No, don't worry.
Yeah, they were like the kind of the hometown heroes because they made it big on TV. Of like the SIBO, there were probably like 5,000 of us, but I guess traders probably
Are
like.
they based out of Chicago? Are
Uh,
they from Chicago?
no, I think they're from like Minnesota. I think maybe.
Or was it?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
No, so, no, that's actually my fault. I was pulling up some windows. I was asking if they're like if they're like Chicago boys, like if that's why SIBO loved them, or if they just loved them because they were used to dealing with them in the pits.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was there with them for about 10 years where they were living there and I was living there. And we used to go to, like the Mercury Christmas party, it was always good party to sneak into. It was always um, a good one. And I think they're from Wisconsin though. I'm not positive, but I think they have to go to New York now to do that show. So I'm not sure if they commute back and forth or how it works. I haven't really been in contact with them since then, but we're always proud of them at the SIBO because they kind of made it big in the TV world and all that, which was cool.
Yeah, you have a question on the YouTube page from a like bozo beast.
From Wisconsin though, I'm not positive.
Hold
But
on,
I think they
sorry
have to
about
go to
that.
New York now to let me kill that.
That's
All
fine.
right.
Don't.
Okay, I just
Actually,
pulled it up.
I'm gonna take a 1 minute break. I have to pee.
Okay,
To be
sure.
honest with you, I'll be right back.
All right. So, quick break, and we are back with Dros. Does this guy show his trades on the screen and call it his setups in advance? And we're just taking a quick break here, and we'll be back soon with Dros on our live broadcast here, and this is the first live broadcast I've actually done with somebody that I'd never met before. So it's kind of exciting, and apologize if there's some breaks and stuff because we've never done this before. So if you like this kind of content and want to see it more, let us know. And we're back right now, I believe, with Dros soon.
We are.
Let's see.
We are indeed back. I am back. I had a bladder to empty. Yes.
So this guy's asking me, I guess, who's my contrary indicator? And I would say I like to just talk to people like walking down the street or just random people in the public and hear what they have to say. If it, you'll see somebody at the gas station sometimes saying to you, oil's definitely going up next week, and that can be a good contrary indicator to me. What would you say to that question?
I would say that my biggest contrarian indicators are the mainstream financial media.
Yeah,
to be honest with you, I mean, some of my greatest trades, some of be it a day trade, and I use several time frames, I use several instruments. I'm like, give me a ticker, I'll trade it. If it's equity, options, futures, Forex, and crypto, bonds, like physical metals, like, give me a ticker, give me a name, and let's work out a deal kind of thing. But some of my best trades have literally been, I'll have Thinkorswim open, and I like their news feed because it's a nice mix of like MarketWatch, MT Wire, the Dow Wire, so it's solid. I mean, there's also like the Fly.com is obviously a great source of news as it goes, but I mean, trading news like that, like trading real news is not, and you may or may not agree with me, but I don't think those are like legitimate trades, frankly. Like by the time the news hits those wires, you better already be in, or you better have the patience to go get into some kind of swing position, be it the equity or be it the options, and take your money and run.
Well, this is something that was, I think, maybe unique to the floor. What would happen was you'd hear stuff at like what back then was the OEX pit or the SPX pit. You'd hear it start to explode, and you'd say, "What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Something just happened. Something just happened. Something just happened." And
dude, the OEX, when I used to like determine the put to call on the OEX, it used to be like the go-to indicator.
But like you'd hear the floor would start roaring, and then the news feed would come out with the news like 20 seconds later. It's like somebody was wired enough to be ahead of it always,
No, yeah, and I mean that's something I talk a lot about with like options flow. Is that anytime, even there's something as low as like an analyst note out, or something as high as news or like a buyout, something like that, there's always unusual options activity prior to that. And I mean, I'm not much of I am a bit of a conspiracy guy.
Oh, really?
Wait, hold on. Like my audio is like cutting it off. 1 second. Okay. 1 second. I'm trying to get one of my like VPS is going because I'll be able to give you faster viewing. And I love trading on like trading virtual servers because like this one is down the line from the NYSE. I get fill times. I get like my fill times are like milliseconds, which I don't really trade much size anymore. But when I do, it's like when I do, then all right, let me use the tools I have available to me, sort of thing. But while this is loading in the background, I mean, I think I saw another question. I think this guy's talking about me, which is fine. I don't mind. Hey, Bozo. Thank you. I appreciate that. As a knowledgeable person, I would not agree necessarily that I'm knowledgeable, but I'm practical. Put it that way. Yes, the whole TLRY trade thing from 2 days ago for those of my followers who are here joining Dave today, yes, I know that was insane and ridiculous, but I very rarely put on trades of that size. I keep most of my money on the side. I mean, there's a clip with there's like a interview with Mark Cuban, and Cuban is, I mean, he essentially just says it. He's like, it's like you can't go out there and compete with guys running these hedge fund shops. It's like they've got, I don't know, they've got 20 analysts on a single stock. They've got their satellites set up to like count, to count the foot traffic into a store. Do you have that? I don't have any satellites counting.
Yeah, not currently,
uh,
no.
no, yeah, I'm working on it. Maybe I can get some drones for cheaper.
Yeah.
But it's like so. His point was like he'll keep cash on the side, and in the video he calls it the World Series of Investing, and I really like that video. Personally, I think Cuban's kind of a douchebag. That's just a personal opinion. Um, that's that's mostly because growing up he was probably like a nerd. He wasn't the best looking guy, nor am I. But I mean, to go from that to being a billionaire from selling broadcast.net to Yahoo for whatever $1 billion it was, um, that's pretty major.
Yeah.
That's like that Tiger Woods stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Another question from Captain F Aloha, telling me to ask you if you remember. I'll send you the name, but looks like that. I mean, just check and answer yourself.
Okay.
Looking for yeah. Go ahead, do it. I'm gonna smoke a cigarette if you don't mind.
Okay. No, go ahead. That's fine. Just
Kylie Jacoby, by the way, is the name.
Got my degree in English. Aaron Scott. Yeah, I don't want to say anything negative about past interviewers. Thanks.
Oh, there's something like Aaron Scott. I didn't even see that one.
Was the question ahead of that one?
No, it's like if you scroll down.
Okay.
And Bozo Beast, I totally agree with you. I mean, I'm retail now too, technically. Trading is absolutely boring most of the day. You're absolutely right. I mean, unless you have some size on, or like a lot of size enough that it's like risky, which I don't necessarily recommend. Unless you're doing something like that, trading is boring as hell. And I just had that conversation with a good friend of mine. Well, a good digital friend of mine, someone I met in my trading room actually. And for those of you in the room, it's Options Wire, Mike. He messaged me this morning, and this is a guy who was like, hopefully he's not watching because he might hate me for saying this to a public forum. Overnight millionaire because he bought some LinkedIn calls right before Microsoft bought them. Luck, pure shit luck, and he's the first one to say it. I just like to say it because it's awesome. He also has
awesome. Yeah.
He also has Apple equity for his son from a cost basis of $5.
Now, did you just fix the quality of the broadcast somehow? Because it's a lot better right now. I'm not hearing the background noise I was hearing before or anything. Yeah.
I didn't really change anything.
Okay, that's weird. I was hearing background noise before a little bit.
Oh, maybe it's my fan. I mean, I am down in Barbados, so I tend to use fans.
So let me ask you about your what you look at in the morning, because I noticed from your blog you were discussing like different like you were discussing different sectors, you were discussing like metals, different and different sectors of the economy and things like that. What are the main things that you look at on your screen during the day? Is it like E-minis, Nasdaq, Dow,
I
Fang
mean,
stocks,
I
gold?
have I have a watch list that I consider always up, and the actual name of the watch list in my Thinkorswim is it's called Keys. It's literally called Keys, and I have it up all day when I trade. And my keys are ES, NQ, CL, GC, VX, Apple, and that's more or less it. I think once you know what those things are doing, I mean, sometimes I'll add like if like right now healthcare is hot. You know, right now healthcare is a pretty hot sector. A lot of those names are moving up, and so then in that case, I'll keep XBI up on the watches on the side, just on the side to see. And if I see movement there, like I know what I'm in. You know, I know what positions I have.
That makes sense.
So I just watch, see some action there, then that will trigger my next step. Or if I see options flow there, that might trigger my next step there. Because I generally have a watch list, and it's like I was saying, it's based on Weinstein mostly, and his technicals. Which, for those of you who don't know anything that much about, if you don't know too much about that stuff, essentially, like I was saying with, I mean, it's entry stage, then second one is accumulate, one is breakout, and just you come back down. And that's essentially the stage analysis. And he uses the EEK SMA charts to verify that kind of thing. Now, 30 weeks, if you're used to gold, not gold, if you're used to like golden crosses and your standard kind of stuff, so your 50, 200, that's a golden cross. Your 50-day moving average moves above your 200. So it's moving up faster than it's coming down, which is the best way I can explain why a golden cross works. Obviously, you know what a golden cross is. But that's the easiest way I can explain it. You know, it's that the stock's moving up faster than it's coming down. So that's why they tend to work. But the thing is, though, because I know that algorithms or HFT firms are paying my brokerage, your brokerage, most of our brokerages for our trading data. Um, that I also know that they keep percentages, just raw percentages of like, okay, if we make this MACD kiss, so like a standard MACD in 912, um, we know that 30% of people or traders are going to buy. So they'll run it up to that number and fuck with it these days with the algos, and pardon my language, but they'll emotions and their minds with that alone. You
Yeah,
know, I mean,
I have a guy I've been talking to who he talks a lot about that and how they can find pockets of liquidity based on knowing the behavior of a retail person who's gonna put their stops in at this particular spot. And my guy talks a lot about forex and that, but definitely true.
Forex is a big part of that. I would argue that the Forex thing is a little different, just because Forex is really, it's either like you are letting your balls hang loose and just going for it, or you need to be very technical about it. You know, Forex more than stocks, I would say, make their moves less on like whatever, just they make their moves on news essentially. Like that's it. Um,
Like
all right,
macro news,
I
sort
got
of.
this. Yeah. I mean, macro news. Yeah. Well, obviously macro news. Like if you hear that like something's going on in Australia, then you're gonna think to look at gold because they are a big miner of gold, and you look at the U.S. dollar. And I mean, that's one thing I also try to preach to people is, and by preach I don't mean like be too heavy and stuff. I don't mean like, I mean like I try to portray common information, looking for some kind. Um, that's fine. I'll tell you like that what you want to like just give things away. All right, but now I have the VPS running, so I will take you through a little bit of like the kind of stuff I look at.
Okay, cool.
So let me put the screen share on. Options low. I just gotta let me alter this a little bit.
Okay, yeah, the
Uh,
broadcast is fading in and out a little bit. It's kind of like
I
ebbing and
think it's.
flowing. Can you
I
hear
think
that?
it's. Yeah, I can hear it. I think it's because of me doing what I'm doing presently.
Okay.
Let me see if once I'm done with this, it'll stop. If not, then I don't really need to do this. We can just look at the charts, and we can always continue the conversation another day. But let me just quickly, for anyone who is following markets right now, let me do us a little overview.
Oh, cool. Sounds good.
We got some news. We got some news from Tesla. Elon made a tweet. This is 1:46, so 2 minutes ago. Twitter, Elon Musk status, blah blah blah. All right, the Tesla piece on the physics of car safety coming soon for those interested in technical details. Okay, that I mean it's an Elon tweet, so that's probably enough to move markets.
Right. Maybe.
Let me
Yeah.
look at some indices. Well, actually, let me see if that Tesla thing is doing anything right now with that news. Okay, let me change my time frame. No, I'll share soon. Hold on. Yeah, it just broke the 78.6 retrace on that news.
What's the price of Tesla right now?
It's trading 297.6.
Okay.
297.75. This one's gonna. It's blowing up on that news. It's an Elon tweet. Come on, yeah. Let me just all right. Let me do one more thing, and then I'll put up my screen so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Okay. Usually I have Active Trader up, but because I'm actually in my account right now, you guys, I'm not going to show you that because it has my position size. But let me go back here, and then let me do this, and then we'll do this. One sec. One
Yeah, I
sec here.
can't.
All right.
I
Cheers.
have a hard time looking at that thing with the questions on it and the screen because it's delayed by like 40 seconds and it freaks me out. So I just have like the questions section showing now and not the screen of us from the past. Seeing me nod
All right.
my
You can
head
see
in the
my
past
screen
is
now.
weird. Uh,
No, yeah. Me seeing you respond to me in like the 20-second delay is a little awkward as well.
my head bobbing is
All
weird.
right.
Yeah.
Look at this. All right. Here we go. Can you? All right. Is this visible? Is this good?
Yes. Let me see if I can
All
expand
right.
it to the whole screen though. Hold on one second. Will that
All
do
right.
anything? Yeah, I expanded it to the whole screen, so that's much better.
All right. Then I'm resizing mine. All right. All right. So quick things I look at. I look at candles in terms of like individual support and resistance kind of things here. And yes, I use a 1 day, 1 minute for intraday stuff. Um, I mean, like with that news, I'm gonna look at this because I want to see what's going on those smaller timescales. Because the algos are trading in like nanoseconds or milliseconds. So why shouldn't I also trade with speed? There's one thing I call my first candle indicator. So anyone new to your show or new to me from your show is not going to know about this. You guys can check my blog. It's androstrades.com. I talk about it a few times there. But essentially, it's the whichever bar had the biggest volume. Um, on the day, that one sets up the momentum. So I've been bullish Tesla all day because if you look at this, the highest volume bar is here. Okay, so what does that mean? We zoom in further. It means right there. And this is how I explain candlesticks, and something I kind of made up. My traders will probably sick and tired of hearing me say this, but it's what I do. So sorry, guys. um, but essentially, to me, the volume on a candle, the biggest volume, is going to give you the direction. And this first one was the highest volume. And when you talk about candlesticks, I mean, it comes from ancient Japanese fishermen or like fish markets. So rather than like reading this and calling this a bullish kicker or like a inverted hammer, blah blah blah, spinning top, whatever you want to call those things, um, what really matters is the highest volume because that starts the trend, and this is the highest volume. And I explain candles like this: the top is the supply. Any top wick is the supply on your candle. Any bottom wick is demand. So from Econ 101, if you guys might recall, when demand down here exceeds supply, typically means the price is going to increase. And there's no other volume bars yet that eclipses that. So that makes up my mind that I am bullish on the name until anything comes close to a volume on this level. You know, if
So,
anything comes close to that volume level. Let's see how the rest of the futures are doing.
so that's because the wick on the bottom of the candle is bigger than the wick on the top. Is that how you figured that?
Yes, I
Okay.
read that as bullish because I read the
Okay.
bottom as the demand
Okay. So there's more
and the
demand than
top as
supply in the biggest volume trade of the day so far, or candle of the day so far.
exactly, and
Okay.
that gives me what I consider the that present moment, be it intraday, be it whatever, that moment, that's the momentum until that volume eclipses it. But the thing is also is that you can go back out further and the indicator still works. So that was a short, that was a 1 day, 1 minute as a chart. Let's go to like a yearly, 1 day, 1 year.
Okay.
So what are we looking for? The highest volume one. So obviously we got this one. And that's actually a bearish shape because we have more supply on top than demand at the bottom. So we zoom out, and what was the implications of that?
We are
The
down
thing
from
came
there.
down.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
We're
cool.
right down from there. I mean, if you go back on any time frame, it works. And this is literally something I made up just from observing charts. Like this is a bullish one because there's smaller wick on top than bottom. Worked out on a weekly. Stuff just works out. It just works out. So being go back to the 1 minute time frame, we still got this one. Yes, it's come down, but now it's going to come back up. Just broke through this Fib retrace, the 786. It was having a little battle there, but on no volume, and it broke it on volume. That's also something else to look at. I'm a big guy who cares about volume. I care a lot about volume. Um, I care a shit ton about volume, actually. And you got the first one, like I said, it's got that little kicker there, and there's nothing there. There's nothing close to that volume. Look at this. The second closest is here, and that's another bullish candle because there's a smaller wick on top than the bottom.
Mm.
Um, the next volume candle is this one, which it looks like it has a tiny wick. It does. So that's one of my little intraday secrets. Frankly, to be honest with you guys.
That's interesting.
It's just that. So like this one, ES, that's a bullish or bearish first candle. There's no wick at the top. So I mean, people would call it a hammer. There's a few names you can call it. I like to make up my own names, frankly. But then we see the shaking oscillators testing up. And for those who aren't familiar with my oscillators, MACD is only here because I'm on this little VPS thing, paper space. I usually don't even look at MACD. It's usually just these two, shaken oscillator and the on balance volume.
Mm.
And why do I look at those things? Pretty simple. Beyond like my reading, this is like, I mean, if you even line up the indicators with that first bear indicator on ES, if you look down to this, like this was going at an angle of like, I don't know, like 80 degrees up.
Mm.
And then this bear candle hit on the high volume, and the slope dropped to like 45 degrees here.
Yeah.
So you went from like an 80% buy pressure to a 45%, and it's still based on that candle because that's when it changed. So Chaikin is an indicator of buying pressure.
Okay.
That's really how that works. It's an indicator of buying pressure, and the unbalanced volume is an indicator of it's like when I go to confirmation essentially. So if let's say I was trading um yeah, well, let's roll off the bottom. It's a good 2% off the low of the day.
Mm.
So my rules still apply. You know, it's the same thing. So it might be down that much, but where's the biggest volume? It's the first candle there. That's the biggest volume I'm seeing right there.
Yeah.
If we cross, yes. And then we got a larger wick on the bottom and a smaller wick on top. I'm still bullish TLRY despite this drop, but this number, this down 18%, used to be down 20%.
Yeah.
So it's coming back. And in my room, so I tell these fools over here, um, damn, he looks smart. Me, AJ, or Dave? I think Dave looks smart for sure.
That's the glasses only.
The glasses, that's all, of course, right?
Yeah.
All right. No, I mean, all right. Let me also do a side note thing. Um, like with options flow. All right. So I'm seeing the stuff come in. DVN, yes. Energy. Okay, sure. So I'll open up the order flow, look at it. It's the spread was 325 x 350. That's a 25-cent spread, and they hit 340. 15 cents over bid, 10 under ask. So technically, that's ask side. I mean, technically mid market. But then I go check it. But I mean, this is out to April. This is April 2019. That could easily be a stock replacement. It's not a big size, $329,000. And I know that sounds like cocky or arrogant, but it's not. I'm not saying that in that.
No, just in general. Yeah.
In general, like relatively 300 grand on for a stock replacement is not going to be anything to get anything done.
Right.
Meaning it's not like a massive player. Um,
No, but to move the market, depending on the volume of that particular stock.
yeah, exactly. So then what we do, we look at our tip, the same shit that I've been mentioning, the first candle, highest volume. But that's what I mean by first candle, because a new first candle is established when we get the next volume. And that's bearish. That's bearish too. There's no wick on top, so it's all demand with no supply.
Gotcha.
Or all supply, no demand. I'm sorry. Yeah. So that would be inclined to move down, but because it's energy, we also need to look at this. We can do it this way. Double it up. Crude. And honestly, sometimes I'm not really much of a chart guy. I can just do it this way. You know, I mean, this is what a chart is. A chart is really just a line representation of this. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
and it's a graphical representation of what this is. And this for those of you not familiar with the Thinkorswim platform, this is something they call Active Trader. As you can see, Active Trader. But what it is a cumulative version of level 2. So I mean, right now apparently not. Well, crude is not the best example. You would have to use a stock.
Yeah, because Crew
Stock
doesn't have different players on level 2, really. Yeah.
exactly. So then level 2 here. All right. So what this Active Trader is doing is aggregating this.
Yeah.
So rather than having to see it all these exchanges right here at this 85, if you add these up, you're going to get this 62 number, 6113 number. So I mean, level 2 is definitely useful because you can see the size, obviously, but
Yeah.
this is the aggregate size, so I actually like it more.
Yeah, I don't look at level
Um,
2 that much anymore because it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, also in a way. And
Especially with HFTs, yeah, absolutely.
yeah. What is it? Somebody's talking smack on your thing about me.
Where,
It says this Dave just claimed something. Never mind. It's
whatever,
okay.
who's saying that?
I
Did
don't know.
Dave just? Don't worry, that's trader talk. That's. I'm kind of an asshole when I'm not doing like these videos. So it's not. He's not calling you a pussy like that. No, that's not what he means.
That's
That's
fine.
not what he means at all. Trust me. I
I'm
know
not
him.
I'm not
He'll
offended in any
actually.
way.
He'll is actually from the shy as well. I believe he may have pit experience.
Cool.
The same guy. So I mean, I mean, being in a pit, you're used to language like that. I'm sure.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Yeah, well, the sound got much better once you pulled up your screen. So I don't know. It must have been like a fan or something next to you that was going towards
It
the
was.
microphone or something.
I'm sure it was the fan.
Yeah.
It was either the fan or me opening up this like remote terminal here.
Cool. So do you find
Um,
is there lag from Barbados, or is it pretty much the same as if you were stateside as far as trading? It seems like it's pretty
well,
much the same.
the lag from Barbados is not as bad as I thought it would be. Frankly, I mean, it's a pretty fast line, but when I use a VPS like this, I mean, the speed on this thing is like absurd, which is a big reason I use. That's also based in New York.
Hmm.
So yeah, New York City. So this thing runs with some fucking speed.
Yeah.
I mean, so if the ping from here is 2 milliseconds, I mean, I don't necessarily need the crazy latency. Like, I'm not an HFT. I'm not
Right.
trying to front run anybody. Um, I'm fine paying a little more sometimes, frankly, uh, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, this is. I wouldn't complain about this line speed,
No, that's great.
and it's at New York. If I were to try it in like this Barbados platform, that might be a little different.
Mm.
I mean, the down and up speeds are great, but the latency to New York necessarily might not be the best. Oh, look, handy first candle indicator. Even my own trading room people don't necessarily like read my blog, so thank you for reading it, Dave. I appreciate that. I'll like mention something I blog about and share with all of them. Shout out to JP if you're listening, JP. This goes out to you. Um, Yeah, but like JP, for example, I mean, he's a great guy. I love the guy. We're good friends. Um, but I'll be like, first candle indicator, bro. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, oh, only thing I've written like 3 blog posts about. All right. So see, like, this is obviously not the same speed as what's on my VPS trading desk here.
Yeah, it looks like about 1/10. Yeah.
Yeah. But for Barbados, like I said, I was a little impressed.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
wasn't
still great.
I wasn't expecting it to push that. And frankly, I mean, my trading style has changed enough to the point where I don't necessarily I don't need the exclusion. or execution times.
Yeah, it sounds
And
like
yeah,
a,
Bozo, you're right. Even if I do, I mean, when I shared my my TLRY trade, and I actually ended up posting this on Twitter because it was just like half the comments were like, "Whoa, dude, awesome, congratulations," and I'm just like, "All right, cool, thank you, that's cool." But at the same time, then like the rest of them are like, "Oh, it's a paper trade, dude. Paper trade, paper trade." And I heard it so many times that I was just like, I'm showing you a screenshot of my screen right now of what my position is. This was when I had more Tilray on.
yeah,
It's like I'm showing you a screenshot, and what else do you want me to do, really? Because I
right,
don't care what you say or think. I know what I'm holding. You know, it's like I know what I'm holding. So you can think if it makes you feel better about yourself that you don't have enough cash on the sidelines or have not been profitable enough that you want to come and try and call me a paper trader, fine. Call me a paper trader. I don't really care because I know my accounts.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know, so you're absolutely right, Bozo. You know, it's like you can't like get things from that. Wait, still haven't sold any shares? Yeah, I have, but I'll respond to him later. The Gramercy Tavern.
So are you pretty
Shit. Are you pretty Yeah,
active
go
on
ahead.
Twitter?
Active on Twitter? Most of my Twitter stuff is actually through StockTwits. I use like the auto share feature. I mean my account it's AndrosForm and not Andros Trades because I used to have a blog, and that's where a good set of my followers came from. I mean my following size is decent on Twitter. It's around like 80K, something like that. Um, but more important, I think, but those numbers are irrelevant. And I was gonna try to find what that guy said, but he's irrelevant too, frankly.
Yeah,
But what he said was like, "Oh, paper account," and I was like, "Dude, I have answered enough questions. I have answered enough of those questions to not need to bother answering yours." Uh, what's the next bizarre option trade?
oh, I saw that one.
I saw that one. I will not know that until I see it, but we can check. All right, so this is my proprietary platform that me and one of my friends built. Let me or actually, my screen share is on still, right?
Yes.
Yes. All right, cool. All right. In my room, I use a truncated version of the feed, because frankly, I think most people who are new to options, especially, to throw the whole gamut at them is a little confusing. You know, because they might see this like, oh, 333,000 into Corning, Shield W, at ask, but like these are out to February 2019. So I mean, some of them might think that's super bullish, and this is one thing that I recommend highly to anyone doing this stuff is that you don't how do I put it? Don't like if you see flow, options flow. So like the little thing I was showing you guys on what you're about to see. Um, don't trade like a cheaper version of what you see traded. Like some people might go back to that one. They might go back to this Corning trade and see, 332 grand. All right, that's decent size. Um, and hit it ask 3,000 as an opening position. It's 3,000 volume against OI 92. And straight it out. They didn't even bother trying to get anything like mid market. So they're doing what they got to do. But yeah, so I mean, here's full flow. And if I compare the two, you'll see that I have a filter on it that essentially only picks up a few of these. This is the full thing.
Okay.
Let's see. I gotta go back, I guess. Okay, so Nectar. There you go, Nectar. This NVIDIA one didn't fit my filter, so it didn't qualify. The IWM one did. So I
Right.
mean, it's really a matter of if you have your watch list, you have it. Dish, I know, has seen a lot of block trades. So if I see that, I would go back to it. I already logged out of TOS. I'll try trading her.
Yeah, I think that option stuff can be meaningful or not. It's good that you have whether it's opening or closing and if they're paying the offer or hitting the bid, that sort of information. But you still don't know
Absolutely.
if it's someone's doing something against it, really.
No, exactly. And that's the reason why I add on these filters is that to me that what the hell's my I can't whatever, it's not important. I can do it this way. But yeah, I mean to me most newcomers don't understand the simple premise that there's about 10 ways to interpret any options order.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just that, like, okay, maybe it's a hedge, maybe it's naked, maybe it's
You can turn a call into a put just by trading the underlying against it. Yeah, so
yeah, absolutely,
all that
absolutely.
kind of stuff.
So like when you see like the big stuff, I'm looking for blocks. So we got a PSEC block. That's a good sized block, 1.4 million shares at 7.4. So what do? I'll maybe look at some options, see if anything's going on there.
You can look at some open interest information per strike, that sort of thing.
No, yeah, exactly, exactly. No, I don't want to open this thing or something. This will make it slow again. Okay. I still haven't smoked my cigarette. I can't find my lighter. That's the main issue. Is there any more questions? Nat gas on a real ripper. My boy Lucalis. He's a very good trader. He lives in Ireland.
Oh,
Ireland.
cool.
It's awesome doing voice with him. Nat gas on a real ripper. This is what I like about my room. Is like I don't need to be. I don't need to be. Tros is talking about you now. Yeah, I was. It's true. Um, I don't need to be always in there because I have people now like my sergeants, AJ, Doctor Hill, Lucalis,
Oh, cool.
JJ, Robert. These are people. If you ever want to come check out the room, you got Boz is good too. It's guys with experience, really. But so it's not like it's my room. I like to call it our room.
Hmm.
But yeah,
And I will leave
yeah,
links. I will leave all links to Dro's rooms and whatnot in the description if you're watching this after the live show.
cool, cool. So I mean, what are your thoughts right now on the market in general? What do you think we're doing? Like, I mean, if I were to put a gun to your head, because otherwise I myself don't do forecasting.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean
a lot
we're
of people will ask me like, "What's your price target?" And I'm like, "Profit.
mm. I
Profit is
mean
my yeah."
I just think we're just slowly rallying. If someone asked me what's gonna what we're gonna do in the next few months, I'd say we're gonna slowly rally. And nobody likes that answer because people love you if you're a YouTuber to say that it's gonna be doomsday and the end of the world and all that kind of stuff. But it's a boring answer, I guess.
Well, I feel as though some of them almost get like kind of a kick out of it in the sense that after a little bit, they eventually they'll be right.
Right.
Some markets work boom bust. Eventually, you'll be right. They're like, I told you guys. I told you guys. Don't worry about all the upside we missed along the way while I was saying that. But I told you guys we were gonna crash. It's like, yeah, we're gonna crash. Anyone listening to this or will listen and watch in the future, we are gonna crash.
Yep.
Period.
And
But
yep.
when is the question?
Exactly.
That's always the
question, especially with this unwind going on. It's hard to tell.
And there's obviously people have been talking about a rotation out of sectors. You can pretty clearly notice that the Apple and the Facebook are not the leaders of the market rally right this moment.
Apple today, I mean, Apple today was pretty strong.
Yeah. Well, Facebook's been hurting for a little while, but part of that's to do
Yeah,
with Congress and all that.
Facebook, I mean, I think will rally eventually, but I don't think it's time to go back after the fangers yet.
I'm into this.
Necessarily.
I'm into the, as I can tell you are. I'm into this whole Canadian MJ scene. It's kind of interesting, and there's been some interesting volatility. I did well last December on that rally. And,
Okay, all right. Yeah.
I
I mean, my go-to guy for that stuff is Dr. Hill. Let's see. He gave me NBEV on a platter, and I made like 933% on it.
What's that doing right now? It's
Doctor,
about 6 or something right now. MBEV. I haven't looked lately.
I was at like 7 something. I
7
think
point.
last time I
Okay.
checked.
All right.
Dr. Hill, we blaze. People want you. People need you. No, but literally, this guy knows pot stocks better than anyone I know. He doesn't even smoke pot. Neptune. All right. Those of you guys familiar, CRBP. So Neptune and CRBP is not gotten as much action in terms of headlines. So that one's a good one. Yeah, I mean, the pot space is hot right now. I could make some kind of like pun intended, no pun intended, but pot's getting pretty high right now.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, it was inevitable, really. It was inevitable. I mean, people have been talking about the benefits in terms of like taxes and
I
all of
was
that
in
stuff for a long.
I was in the CRBP thread in StockTwits for a while, and there's some people like that's their whole life is that thread, and it turned out to be pretty much the most boring thread ever after a little while, and I had to get out of there.
Yeah, no, I mean, all right, but here we go. Here's some more from him. NBEV is sketchy, he says, and he says NBEV has no production. Neptune has their production line in place. That's from who I said, Dr. Hill. He's
What's
on
the symbol
StockTwits.
for
I recommend you.
What's the symbol for Neptune for people?
NEPT.
All right.
They used to make fish oil. And then decided that they would use their facilities and their process to make CBD oil products.
Oh, that's cool. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so they already have their pipe set up essentially. I mean, it's still oil. Yeah, you're gonna need to obviously go through and like go through the process of like THC extractions and then CBD extractions off of that. But
You're saying they
the
basically
fact
have their pipe basically packed and ready to light. Is that what you're saying? No, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, man, they're about to get real high, dude. The stock's about to get real high. Yeah.
That's funny.
I mean, it's a crazy space because I mean, if people were like trading weeklies on maybe TLRY, even something like that, it's like you would have made a killing yesterday. You would have made a killing the day before, but unless you were astute about it, you would have lost all your goddamn money today.
Yeah, I mean, all I've really been doing all I did yesterday was some really small legging into short call spreads. Like I'm short the 290.95 call spread, like really small. But I was just kind of playing around.
Like what expiries?
Tomorrow.
I mean,
weekly, but just small.
The weekly expiry.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the fact that you're doing a spread gives you a little bit of
protection
advantage. Protection versus like trying to guess a unidirectional move kind of thing,
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, I mostly trade VIX and volatility products. I'm usually timing getting in and out of UVXY spreads. When volatility pops, I'll get short it, and then when it goes back down, I'll take it off, and that's like been my go-to trade lately.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, and I'm actually glad you brought that up because it's a point I was making to one of my traders last night because people in my room, like the newer ones and also the ones who pay for it, because there is it's like an optional paid thing at this point right now. So like if you want like my priority, essentially, that's the point of it. I mean, the point is not making income at this from that. It's a way of like if I'm going to be getting all these questions in, I need a way to prioritize who's serious about it.
That makes
I
sense.
mean, yeah, I'll prioritize my friends and stuff, obviously. So now, if I get a question from famous Dave, I might answer that first. But
That's very kind.
I mean, it's just like, I mean, like my sub fee is gonna be very nominal. It's gonna be tiny compared to anything. It's just because that's not the point. I'm not trying to make this. This is not my business. My business is trading.
It gets
That's
rid of the
my
riffraff a little bit, I think, if you charge a little bit.
no, exactly,
People take it
exactly. There's
seriously.
exactly, and that's a qualifier that this guy Options Wire, which I think I mentioned before. He's one of the best technical traders I know. And if you're on Twitter, he does this thing as a joke. His name is like Plutonium Subs. He doesn't run a sub service. He's just of his technicals. He knows everything about anything in terms of like breadth, internals. Like he's watching. He's a big fan of like like NYSI, just like the breadth indicators, McClellan, uh, and the like McClellan summations, advanced decline, etc. So he's big on that, and he's fantastic. But my point being is just like he's hilarious, and he goes back to the point we were saying where like it can get boring doing this thing, like watching charts and that all day.
Oh yeah, totally.
I mean, it's like they chop. They just go boop, 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 and then all of a sudden you might get or you might get a, but it's kind of luck at the draw. So you got to use strategy. You got to use risk management. Those kind of things. You got to be in the game to play. You can't.
Well, they find out, one of the things about traders that are on YouTube and whatnot is a lot of the best traders are not the most dramatic or exciting people. It's because they have this mechanical way of doing things and they're able to survive the boredom and stay focused. But somebody who is going to sell like products to traders needs to be more emoting and more emotional. So like it's kind of a dichotomy of things.
Absolutely, and I agree with you there. But I think there's also one key difference is that the reason right now why I'm not scared of algos, except them causing another flash crash at some point soon. I have no fear of people trying to replace people like me or yourself with an algorithm, because the algorithm is written by a person. At the end of the day, it's their strategy.
Right.
And yes, they use a bunch of historical data. They use a lot of look back data. Whatever. They back test everything. But it's still like a person. And like the news algos, I don't know if there's something you've noticed, and let me know if it is, but it seems like the news algos these days are getting more pointed at manipulating news algos. Like they'll put out something that like has the grammar of bearish. Just grammar. It doesn't necessarily even say bearish, because that's how those algos work. Is they go through.
Well, that's the thing. As
the
soon as you
word.
have something, someone tries to game it. As soon as you have an algo, someone tries to game it.
Exactly,
and it goes on and
that's the
on
name
and
of
on forever.
even like before algos. I mean, back when you were like doing your pit stuff. I mean, I'm sure you know, I mean, like you were saying, because you're not like a bigger guy necessarily, you had to find a way, your edge,
Right.
you know, is edge. It's really what it is at the end of the day. I mean, people have different edges.
Yep.
I think one of my strongest edges beyond reading options tape and that kind of stuff is the same reason I started off as an English major, frankly. You know, it's like, what are they saying and what are they not saying when a news article breaks? You know, because there's a lot they're not saying. Like they'll say like, "Oh, this is blah 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 blah. This like this might occur. Analysts are worried that this is the probability." And it's like, those are dip buys to me whenever I see headlines like that. Like Tesla now is almost pushing 300 again. If it's not crossed it yet today.
Wow.
And I mean, everyone was like, "Oh, funding secured." But if you read that tweet, if you literally read what he said, he never said that he had funding secured. He said, "I am considering taking company private at 420, funding secured," which to me, and I don't have a legal background. I just have read a lot of, you know, legal documents, that kind of stuff. To me, I read that and hear that, and I say, a consideration is a thought. It's not him saying that he's going to do it.
Yeah, totally. No,
I am
I kind of read it that
considering
way too.
taking
Yeah.
this. I am considering going private. Funding secured. So he never said, "I have funding secured if I want to go private." It's more him saying, if I do go private, I would do it with funding secured
Yeah,
at a
yeah.
stock price of 420.
Yeah, I thought
You know,
about it that way too. Yeah.
so that SEC case is going to fall off. It doesn't matter. And
Did
now
you
we're over those levels again from before the tweet. So hey,
did you catch him on Joe? He was on Joe Rogan
I
podcast like a week
loved it.
ago.
I loved that whole thing with Rogan. Absolutely.
It was making me think of it when you were talking before about algos, because they were talking about when when robots will be taking over humans, and in the same way that he wasn't really worried about robots
Like
taking
brain
over
mesh,
humans.
like brain mesh, which is what one of his projects is presently.
Oh, really? I didn't know about that.
Brain mesh is like one of his newer things. I mean, he has an open source AI platform with the guy who did Y Combinator. They co-founded that.
I don't
It's
know
like
about that. Yeah.
it's an open source AI thing. So, you know, I mean, Elon kind of hyped it up, saying that AI is going to end the world. We're all going to die because of AI. It's essentially how he's been hyping himself in the media, saying it. But
It's a sales pitch for his business. Is that what you're saying?
then, well, I mean, right after that, he came out with an open source one. So it's not
Right.
even like he's trying to like use his intelligence or his intellect to protect us from it. Because my belief about AI and the dangers in quotes of it, is simply that I'm not afraid of it, because I think that smart people in the end will be smarter than anyone trying to use it for harm.
Yeah, that
And
makes sense.
the smartest, like, I mean, white hat hackers are usually way better than black hat hackers. The guys who like do those like penetration tests,
Hmm.
or like they do the those like bounty programs, like
So,
we're like, hack us and we'll pay you like $1 million or give you a job kind of thing. Those guys are way better hackers.
hmm.
The guys who do black hat use like the built-in tools. They use like simple brute force attacks or like a DDoS attack or those kind of things. These guys are like literally like, they're in a server. They've got a limited amount of time before the firewall triggers and then kicks them out. So like their brains are operating at fast speeds. You know, so those kind of guys, and the fact that they're involved in AI too, that's why I'm not afraid of AI. I mean, sure, things could go wrong, especially when you have machine learning, um, when you have like neural networks, all that stuff. You know, it's that kind of stuff makes it sound very scary. But
I kind I kind of get the feeling that you and I will be gone by the time it's a threat.
That's fair enough. I mean, right now it's this comes from my remember Luke list. So shout out Lou if you're on the room, on the call. But 90% of the volume on the exchanges these days is either HFT, algo, institution, or funds.
Wow.
That means there's 10% of us.
Wow.
So anyone who's like trying to fight markets, that's why you don't fight markets. If our buying power, I mean Vanguard, the Vanguard group, I forget the exact figure, but they are just through their ETFs and their mutual funds,
Passive investment mutual funds, yeah.
they own like majority holdings in almost all of the S&P 500 stocks. Yes, they're passive. Yes, they're not out there trying to, like be one of the icons of the world. They aren't like out there to cause any hissy fits. I mean, maybe when Jack dies, that might start happening. But Jack Bogle, the founder. But I mean, the fact that one company has that much AUM, I think it's over several trillion or some shit like that.
Wow.
AUM, and then owns majority stocks in almost every S&P 500 name.
Yeah, that is kind of troubling in a way.
I mean, it could be unless they. It's either they stay passive with their stake, or they like. I mean, if Vanguard and BlackRock, with their ETF holdings, were to combine forces, they could do whatever they want to do with the market.
Yeah.
Combine the two of those, they own the S&P 500.
Yeah.
More or less. I mean, in terms of common, I mean, maybe not preferred, but in terms of common, and most of the common these days has voting. So that's a scary thought.
Yeah, totally.
It's a possibility. I don't see it happening necessarily, but it's a possibility.
All right. Well, I think we should probably leave it there so that we can leave some stuff for a future thing or something. If you're game, I mean that is.
And it is about 2:30, so
yeah.
I like to get it in at the end there.
Yeah. And once again, I apologize for being a little late.
That's fine, but thank you very much for the invitation.
It's very nice to meet you, and it lived up to being as fascinating as I thought it might be. I knew very little about you, so it's great to meet you, and you have a positive message in that it seems like you're coming from a really solid family structure, and your family and your upbringing has really been a strength for you. It seems like to be successful and to be driven and all these great things. So that's a great example you set.
Well, thank you. And I mean, just on that note, to toss it up, I mean, like when you asked about like the whys of teaching, on Twitter or on StockTwits, whatever platform it was yesterday, someone asked me when I posted a screenshot of like when I was up the 1.1 on those like 10,000 shares, and they're like, "What's the feeling? Are you happy?" And frankly, I'm happier when I hear that someone else made money off my tip. Because to me at this point, I've been trading long enough where the money is like, oh yeah, that's nice, that's great. But I'm not like I'm gonna go clubbing tonight. Yeah, let's go rage because I just made $1 million on a trade. Like no, that's not me. I'd much rather lay back like my boy also in my room, like Ben Lex. After the trade like that, he's a newer trader. I spent like 3 hours talking to him last night just because he's a newer guy, and my goal is there's so much disinformation in the market. There's so many people with agendas that are not sincere. They're not sincere agendas. They're just agendas. They're saying things or painting things in a certain way to get what they want. It happens with analyst upgrades and downgrades. Like when JPM put out their JE downgrade, that to me just means they want to buy more cheaper.
Yeah, that happens
You
a
know,
lot, I
so
think.
so with all this misinformation, my goal at the end of the day is to be honest with you guys. I don't know everything. I know far from it. But I will tell you what I've learned over my years, and that's really why I do what I do. And it seems like you have the same sort of passion, so respect for that.
Indeed. Great. Well, thanks once again for your time, and I've really enjoyed this, and it's great to meet you. And congrats on the TLRY trade. That sounds like a great trade yesterday. Awesome.
It
Thanks.
was it
Yeah.
was nice. It was nice. Thank you again, and we'll talk soon. All right.
Thanks again, and thanks for everybody for watching. And I will leave links in the description to all of Dro's stuff, and please check him out, support him, and please check me out and support me. Thanks for watching,
Yes.
and we'll see you
Follow
next time.
Dave. Please follow Dave. I've watched his other videos. He's spot on.
Thanks, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.